Hello, and welcome back to the vlog. I've been using these plastic label sleeves. I've got all the ingredients all measured and prepped. I have a brand new camera in tow. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday season. I know we did, but I can't believe it's already January. It's always crazy how fast the time flies from like October through December, but I'm ready for a fresh year. I'm ready for a new start. I'm ready for all of the things that come with the new year. Matt and I had about a week and a half off together, and I just put the camera down and took the time. I didn't realize how much I needed to just be off, and all of that craziness leading up to the holidays, finishing the office, wrapping things up for work, it just took everything out of me. So I feel so much more refreshed now that I've had that time off. It was so nice to just slow down, relax, catch up on movies and TV shows, cook delicious meals, go for walks with the dogs. We went golfing. We even started working out again on Christmas Day, which sounds crazy, but it was honestly kind of nice. So we are working on fitting that back into our routine, which is honestly harder to do than it sounds. I'm sure a lot of us are in the same boat, but like, I don't have time in the morning, I don't have time at night, like when am I supposed to do it? But we're gonna try our best to figure out when we can fit that in and be a little more consistent about it. I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things. I have 2 more days off this week, so I'm going to try to get through the long list of to-dos, starting with taking Christmas down. I had every intention of doing a big Christmas tour and showing you everything once it was all done, but time got away from me, Christmas came and went, and it's time to start the new year with a clean slate. So I've got all of my tubs and things out, and I'm going to start taking all of the trees down. I already started taking down some of the small little decor here and there, but I need to get the trees down so that I can like actually clean up and vacuum and get all the tinsel and things off the ground. So I'm hoping I can get that done in a few hours. I don't think I ever showed you guys this tree. This was the last tree I always put up in our bedroom, and for our wedding, instead of having a guest book, we actually had everybody sign ornaments, and we call this our guest book tree, and we always put it up in our bedroom. So it's kind of fun to just like relive that day and see all these messages from our favorite people around the Christmas season. Every year I decorate it a little bit differently. This year I did tinsel, which was fun, but a little bit messy. Last year I tied little bows all around the branches. I did really like the tinsel, so maybe I would do that again or mix in some bows. We will see next year, but it's time to take it all down, so I'm going to pull all the tinsel off, pack up the ornaments, and take apart the tree. Top down, I'm going to take this garland down. I have little plastic baggies that I put all of the ribbon and the orange slices in, and then I've got a tub to wrap all the garland up in. I've been using these plastic label sleeves for all of the tubs this year and just labeling, you know, kind of like what category it is, what room everything is in, and then a short list of the items in the bins. I get these bins from Walmart. This is a wider one, so it's longer than like a standard bin, and then I have ones that are like 2/3 of this size. So I will link the bins and these plastic sleeves. I just find these nice because I can slide the cart out and change things up if I reorganize bins in the future. about to deconstruct the Harry Potter tree, and I think I showed you these storage bins when I took everything out, but these are for the ornaments, and it has these stackable trays. So there's 4 layers in there where I can put all of the smaller ornaments, and then it just zips closed. I've seen some newer designs that I like better. They're similar to this, but they're a little more sturdy. So I will include a link to something similar in the description. I do also save some of the boxes for the larger ornaments that I buy them in. Like this one is for some of the larger bulbs. So these are perfect for storage. There's no reason to toss them, and they wouldn't fit in this storage bin anyway. So I do hang on to these because they're good to keep things organized. I've also saved all of my flat pieces of cardboard because I use these to wrap the lights around, and that way they just don't get tangled. I just label which tree they're for, and then I cut a slit at the top here where I stick the end of the cord in, and then I just like wrap it around, and then they stack really nicely in the tubs like this on their side. Up. Every tub has a label on it, so next year when we unpack everything, it will be easy to find what we're looking for. I've just got it all organized over here by the barn door so Matt can help me bring it upstairs. As I was putting all the Christmas stuff away, I was collecting a few things that I wanted to donate. So before it gets totally dark out, I'm going to run a few errands, drop a box off at Goodwill, and then stop at Joann Fabrics, because if you caught up on all of the Office episodes, you remember that we finished the build, but I have these glass cabinet doors that need to be covered. Obviously with the glass, you can see right through it, so if I stuff things in there, it would look a mess. And my intention was to always create some curtains that I could hang from the interior, and then you could see the, fabric pattern through the glass. So we're going to run over to Joann's and see what fabric they have. I have every intention of swapping these curtains out for different seasons, but for now I'm thinking I'll just find something that's somewhat neutral and can kind of like live in there for a while I seek out more specific fabrics and patterns. Something that has a little bit of green in it but isn't primarily green. I don't particularly love that floral design, but I like the idea of the mix of colors. I was looking for like a small blue and white check, but it doesn't look like they have one. I thought that could be kind of simple and cute with the sagey green on the cabinets. This is pretty, but it's a little too bold of a color scheme for my style. If it was less of like a tealy blue and more of a light blue, I think I would go for something like that. If this one was a blue background and not black, I think I would love that. It feels a little more elevated, and it's a busy enough pattern, even though it's bigger, that when it's bunched, I don't think you would lose it. It would just kind of look like a bunch of flowers. So if I could find something like that, that would be cool. A stripe could be fun, but it does require that I sew everything perfectly straight so the lines appear like vertically aligned, so I don't know if I want to do that. Okay, this is really pretty. I'm not a huge fan of red, but I kind of like the blend of colors. This could work well with the green. It doesn't have like the exact shade of green, but I think all of these colors would kind of like lend themselves well to the sage green being next to them. It could also be kind of dated. Okay, love the blue hydrangeas, but it's too perfect of a pattern. I feel like it needs to be like a little more like intermixed, so it's not such a repeated pattern. Okay, this is like a blue-gray check. That could work for like a temporary situation. I did not end up getting anything for the curtains. I just wasn't loving any of the patterns, even the neutral ones, and I don't want to get something just for the sake of getting it done. I still want to like it, even if it's something I'll rotate out. But I did end up getting this fleece pattern. I got a couple of yards of it, and I thought I would try making a little dog blanket for the couch so I can keep the dog hair and the dog prints off as much as possible, but still blend it into the decor. I was thinking of going to Hobby Lobby, but I think I'm going to skip it. They probably have a lot of similar patterns, and I think I will be able to find something more quickly online. So I'm going to head home and start working on dinner. Just got home and attempted to start filming, and my camera is not working. So I was hoping that when I dropped it in the meringue a few weeks ago, it would just kind of be okay. And it was working for a bit, but everything's been really sticky and kind of like catching. And the other day I turned it on and it was just stuck on one setting and it wouldn't switch over to video. And I just kept playing around with it, turning it on and off, and eventually it kicked back on and it was working okay. But I'm experiencing the same thing now and it is not recording, which is a big bummer. I took the battery out. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit and see if that does it. But if it doesn't, I think we need to retire this one, unfortunately. It's such a bummer because the Canon G7X has become such a popular camera recently. I have no idea why, but everyone has been after them. And the price has gone up significantly. They're out of stock everywhere. I am on waiting lists for brand new ones, refurbished ones, just trying to get my hands on a second camera. So for now, I'm going to be working from my phone. So if it looks like I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm not used to filming on this. I have to look to the side so that I'm actually looking at the lens over here and not at the screen. And it's really hard to record when you can't look at yourself because I don't know if I'm blinking, I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just gonna go with it. I got some salmon out for dinner. We usually buy this in bulk from Costco and then divide it up and freeze it. So I've been thawing that for a little bit, and I'm going to make some salmon curry. So I'm going to get everything out, dice and prep everything, and then we will get that started. Okay, for the moment the camera is working, so we are just going with it and we'll see how long we have with this. But I've got all the ingredients all measured and prepped. I learned how to do this technique when we did Blue Apron several years ago now, and it really is just like a subtle change in how you cook, but it really does help make the meal faster. Now that everything's just measured out, as I go through the recipe to actually bake the dish, I just have to dump things in. I don't have to think about where my measuring spoons are or if I have enough. I know everything's ready to go and I can move pretty quickly. So now what I'm going to do is prep the salmon. So normally we would cook it in a pan, but this particular recipe cooks it in a baking dish. So I'm going to mix some of these ingredients together, throw it in a baking pan, and cook that in the oven at 450. Finished dinner. It was delicious. The recipe includes a mango salsa, which I highly recommend making. We didn't make it this time because I forgot what it was for, and I just got like a jar of mango salsa, but it was tomato based, so I didn't think that would work as well. The recipe calls for like a mango, jalapeno, scallion, lime juice kind of mix, and that works really well. We've made it for another similar recipe before, so if you make something like this, definitely include the salsa because I think the sweet and like salty mix is nice. We have migrated upstairs to work out. Check that off. We said we were gonna stick to it. We're trying to stick to it. It's really hard because at the end of the day, the last thing I wanna do is work out, but we are going to try to stick to it because once we have a routine, it's easier to keep going. For me, it's all about look good, feel good, so I always want to put on a fun outfit. I've got lots of different leggings and sports bras and shoes and things like that, so it sounds silly, but it makes me want to work harder. So I popped on my Gymshark sports bra. I've had this for years. I literally love all things Gymshark. The fits are just so good. I haven't bought anything the last few years because I've really stocked up, and you know, once I have it, I kind of just reuse it. But really like this, so I'll include a link to it if they have something similar. I think I got it like 2 years ago, so it might not exist anymore. And then my leggings are from Quince, so they're just like a dark forest green. They almost look black in the video. I got these when I was looking for a similar pair to what I normally get at Beyond Yoga. They have this really soft fabric and I love it, but they're expensive. So I purchased these in hopes that they would be similar. They're not really, but they're great for working out and they're significantly cheaper. I want to say they were like 35 bucks. So if you're looking for a good pair of leggings that has neutral colors, you might like this one. It's also high-waisted and it has a little side pocket if you're like a runner and you like to put your keys or, you know, a couple bucks in your waistband here. So let's get to it. Good afternoon, technically, it's lunchtime. I am in the car about to head to Best Buy because last night after I stopped filming, this camera stopped working again. And I figured it's probably time to get a backup camera so that when this actually does die and I can't record, I at least have something to work with. It's fine to record from my phone for like a temporary situation, but it's just a pain in the butt, and I use that for so many other things while I'm recording that it's hard to have it occupied by the camera. So as I was walking out the door, I literally dropped this camera on the floor and it just started working again. It was an accident, I didn't do that on purpose. So I'm like, okay, do I send it in for servicing yet? Like, can I just use it until it totally dies? I was going to head up to Manchester to go to Hunt's Photo and Video, which is like a camera equipment store, but now I'm like, maybe I can get a little bit longer out of this and I'll just go to Best Buy, get something there, hold on to it, like don't open it until I absolutely need to, and then I can bring this in for servicing. So truly trying to maximize the heck out of this because I just love this camera so much and I really would love to just get the same one, but that is not in the cards, so we have to pivot and maybe potentially learn a new camera. We will see. So let's go see what Best Buy has. Okay, I'm back home and I have a brand new camera in tow. I'm still filming on the G7X and crossing my fingers that there was just a blip the other day and it was acting funny. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to hold out until a new one becomes available. But as a backup plan, I did purchase the Sony ZV-E10. This is highly recommended among vloggers. The things I really love about the Canon G7X, I could not find in a similar camera. So this is probably the closest for like the price I wanted to pay. All of the cameras are expensive, do not get me wrong, like this was not a cheap purchase, but I really don't want to be spending over $1,000 for a little pocket setup. The difference with this that I don't particularly love, but we'll have to deal with because it appears that a lot of cameras are kind of like that, is this, the new camera flips out to the side. So if I want to look at the screen as I'm filming, I have to kind of look to the side. The G7X flips up, so it looks more like I'm looking at the lens, even though I'm actually looking at the screen to make sure I'm in focus and I'm not blinking excessively or anything crazy. The Sony ZV-E10 also has a detachable lens, so there are pros and cons with that. Like, I can switch out the lenses if I want to purchase other ones, but quite frankly, I will probably never use anything other than the kit lens. And the nice thing about the Canon G7X is it's just all-inclusive. There are no detachable lenses, so it just minimizes the parts and allows the lens to like really be super narrow. If this camera continues to work and I don't need this in 2 weeks, I will probably return it and then I will know what I need to pick up if I do have an emergency failure of this camera. So super fun stuff going on this week. Sorry about all the craziness with the camera, but yeah, you kind of don't think about it until it's a problem, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So I'm gonna put this in a safe place, and we are going to pivot to a small little project I wanted to do in the kitchen, and I've been saving it for my time off. Of course, now we're at the last day, so you know, other things were priority, but I have been wanting to organize our kitchen drawers. Now, we don't have a lot of them, but we shoved everything in there and there are no organizers. So as you can imagine, having no organization in the drawers, they get a little bit messy. Sometimes they're hard to open because something gets stuck on something and then it gets trapped. So you kind of have to like shove your arm in there awkwardly to get something out. So what I've been wanting to do is just DIY some drawer dividers that will help us kind of keep things sorted better. If you watch the DIY office series, you know that we went through a ton of wood, and you can imagine how much scrap wood I have left over, which will come in very handy for a project like this because we don't need that much wood. I'm gonna flip the camera and I will show you what I'm going to do. So we only have like 4 drawers, but as you can see, it's a little bit chaotic in here. There is a lot going on. Oftentimes things are like overlapping and I have to kind of like fish through to find what I'm looking for. What I would love to do is just create little sections so we can kind of put similar sized things in those sections and they won't get all like cluttered like this. Our drawers also don't open all the way. They kind of stop with like, I don't know, maybe like 6 inches in the back. So if there's something back here, you like really have to reach in and it's kind of awkward. So my thought is if we have things better organized and those dividers were quite low, you would be able to access things more easily, but also, again, keep things organized. So what I'm going to do is measure the interior of the drawer, so the interior width and the interior depth. And then I'm gonna kind of decide how many sections I want. Our drawers aren't huge and they're not very deep. You can see they're probably only about like 3.5 inches deep. So I'll probably make the dividers just a little bit lower because if they're too high, it makes it hard to get over them when you have to reach in the back. So I will take those measurements and then I'm just gonna cut strips of 1/2 inch plywood that fill the interior depth. And then I'm gonna cut little spacers that will fit between those long pieces and kind of wedge everything together. This will make sense once I cut everything down. Once I have my measurements, I'm just going to rip down the long strips on the table saw, and then I'll use the miter saw to cut the shorter pieces. Then I will bring them all in to dry fit and make sure everything fits the way I want it to. And before we actually put them in place for good, I will sand and polyurethane them, just so they're not rough and scratchy and they don't like absorb any stains from moisture or, I don't know, if we spill something in the drawer. The utensil drawer seems to be the least complicated in layout, so I'm going to start with this one. So I just sketched out how I wanted to organize it so I could figure out which of these cuts was the same length, and then I made a cut list down here. So the items listed A and B are like my spacer pieces, and those are going to be cut with 1/4 inch plywood, and then my items listed C and D are going to be the like dividers, and those are going to be 1/2 inch plywood. So once I kind of had that sketched out, I just did all the calculations down here. Now we're going to go out to the barn and cut those and see how they fit. It is flipping freezing outside, but I got all of the pieces cut for the first drawer here. So these are all my little spacer pieces. They're just 1/4 inch thick. And then these are all the dividers, which are 1/2 inch thick. So hopefully I calculated the measurements correctly, and these will fit pretty snugly in the drawer. Like I said before, it's basically just like wedging everything together. There's no slots that they slide into or anything. It's just kind of like pressure. So I'll flip the camera down so you can see, and we will try to dry fit them. Everything fits like the way that I intended, but it's not as tight as I wanted it to be. And I feel like once you start throwing stuff in here, these are just gonna flop over. I'm gonna leave the dividers and I will recut these spacers just a little bit longer to see if that helps tighten things up. Even if these shift a little bit front to back, like the tiniest bit, as long as the spacers keep them tight, they won't fall over. Like those will be okay, but the spacers need to be tight, otherwise they're just gonna fall over and everything's gonna fall apart. I've recut all my spacers. They're just a smidge wider so that the fit is tight. So now I'm going to dry fit everything and see if that helps keep these dividers in place. That's better. This one felt pretty snug going in, which is good. Now I've got these two for the front. I think we're good. Don't mind this mess of crumbs over here, but now when I kind of shimmy these around to see if they're loose, they're pretty snug. There's a screw right here in this corner, so this won't sit up flush, so I'll probably just have to like sand a little bit on this edge so it kind of notches into the screw. But now that everything fits more snug, I feel like when we toss things in and out, they won't just like tumble apart. There are a few reasons I'm customizing these drawer dividers. One, I have a pile of free scrap wood in the barn, so why not use it? And two, it allows me to maximize every inch of the drawer. A lot of the pre-existing drawer organizers are like a fixed size. So if your drawer is a little bit wider or a little bit deeper, you lose a few inches of space. By customizing these to fit the exact size of the drawer, I can use all of the space and I don't have any weird little spacious corners. The containers I do have in some of the drawers slide a lot. I even have little grippy things on the bottoms to prevent that from happening, but it's still not perfect. So if I can fit something like this to the drawer, I don't have to worry about stuff sliding around. It's almost dinner time, so I'm going to pause here on this one for tonight. Now we kind of know what we need to do to get everything to fit nice and tight tomorrow, so I'll put everything back so I don't have a mess when Matt gets home, and then I'm going to make smash tacos for dinner. Happy Sunday. We are out in the barn. It is freezing cold, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. I actually had time yesterday to cut down all of the pieces I needed and dry fit them in the drawers. So I've got my divider pieces here. That's the 1/2-inch pieces of wood. And I'm going to sand down the tops just so they're not super rough. When you stick your hand in the drawer, that's the part you're going to be kind of like touching or knocking with your hand. So I'm just going to hit these top edges with the sander to kind of round them over, and that way it'll just be a little bit smoother to the touch, and I won't get any slivers when I'm trying to grab silverware from the drawers. Once these are all sanded, I will bring them inside and apply a few coats of polyurethane. That will seal them up, but it will also add just a tiny bit of thickness to each piece, which will ensure everything fits even more snug in the drawers. So I'm going to grab my hand sander with 80 or 100 grit sandpaper and just knock all these edges down really quickly, and then we will go back inside to warm up. I brought everything in, so now our top edge is nice and smooth, and I just lightly sanded these flat sides too. I didn't touch the ends or the bottom because those will be like touching up against something. And I'm not sanding these either because they're really not going to be touched. Like, they're so skinny you can't even see them, and they'd be kind of a pain to sand. So I'm going to leave those as is. The next step is to apply a few coats of polyurethane, but I have left this out in the barn for a long time, probably since I polyed the shelves over here, so it's frozen. And I looked it up to see if once you thaw it out you can still use it, but it looks like the properties kind of change once it gets frozen, so we are going to run to Home Depot and get a fresh can. Okay, we have acquired another can, but that was an expensive mistake because the other can was like nearly full. I'm pretty sure I bought it brand new for the shelf project, and the whole thing was frozen, and we just had to pay $23 for another quart. So don't let your stain or polyurethane freeze. Okay, I have everything set up inside because I cannot bear to do this outside in the cold, and I'm not sure the polyurethane will cure properly in the cold anyway. So I just have these little like spacers that I rested everything on top of. I'm going to wipe each piece down with the tack cloth just to remove any dust. Then I will apply the first coat on the top and all of the sides. I'll let it dry, do a second coat, and then once it's dry, I'll flip everything over and do the same thing on the other side. The spacer pieces are a bit small to set on top of blocks like this, so I think I'm just going to apply a coat and set them right on the plastic, and if anything drips off and sticks to the plastic, they should peel off pretty easily. Alright, just finished putting 2 coats on everything. It dried pretty quickly, and it took me a while to get through each piece, so by the time I was done with the first coat, I could go right back and apply the second coat. So that's gonna dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will apply 2 coats to the other side, let that dry, and then we can put them in the drawers and call that done. It is my first day back to work tomorrow, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get this all wrapped up before I wrap this vlog up and get back onto a normal vlog schedule, but with the camera situation and just like getting back into the swing of things after the holidays, I'm a little off schedule, so bear with me. I'm just playing a little bit of catch up. I've got my pile of finished divider pieces here. This morning I had time to apply 2 coats to the back side of everything. I let it dry all day, and now I'm going to install them in the drawers. I've already got all of the drawers emptied out, and I've actually been using this little 3-tier cart that Matt got me for Christmas. The cool feature about it is that it actually folds up in the middle and collapses down. One of the biggest pain points we have with doing projects is that things are always all over the place. Tools are everywhere. For example, in a project like this, if I didn't have a cart, all of these utensils would be all over the counter, and it's kind of like stressful to have your house constantly in a state of mess. So he thought this would be a good idea to kind of like organize things when I'm working on certain projects, and he was spot on. I also like that it collapses because when I'm not using it, it's easy to store and it doesn't take up a ton of room. So I will include a link to this, and once I get everything off of it, I will show you how it folds up so you can see how condensed it gets. I'm going to start with the silverware drawer first. So this is the one with the most dividers, and after I dry fit it and took it out, I labeled on the bottom edge of every piece with a series of dots so I knew which order to put them back in and whether they were in the front or the back. So now I will just put these back in place in the same order, wedge everything together, and put the utensils back in place. Here is our freshly organized drawer. The reason I added labels to this one is because the silverware in the back can slide quite a bit. So if you can't see like the top of the silverware when we toss it in the drawer, sometimes you're like, where are the forks? So I thought just putting the labels here helped. I could have put the silverware in the front, but that would have meant that I had this big wide open space in the back. And this horizontal piece would kind of create like a wall, and because the drawers don't open all the way, you'd kind of have to like reach over that wall to access whatever was in the back. So you'll see I've kind of followed the same pattern by keeping this like open wide space in the front, and then anything that was like vertical kind of oriented toward the back, and that just allows us better access to things so we can use the whole drawer. kitchen drawer organization is done. Very happy with how everything came out. I do have 2 other drawers, one of which is covered by the dishwasher handle. It's a very weird, poor design choice, but we can't actually open it unless the dishwasher is open, so I'm not going to do anything with that drawer because it's awkward as it is, and we need to sort that out before I actually go ahead and organize it. And then the last drawer I have is my spice drawer, which I kind of already have organized, and I'm worried that if I get one of those organizers that kind of tilts everything up, this 3rd row will actually block the back of the drawer, and we have a whole 4th row back here that I need to get my hand in to access. So I think it's probably best to leave these a little bit loose, but I do already have them organized in the glass jars, and I have my sheet with numbers and names of all the spices in here so I know where they fall in this organized mess. Before I wrap this vlog up, I did want to show you the cart, so I'm just going to flip the camera and I will collapse that. Okay, so when you're done with this cart and you want to collapse it, you just need to pull up on this handle, and that is what actually locks it into place so it doesn't fold up on you when it's in use. So you just release that handle and keep pulling up. It's a little bit fidgety, but it will start to fold in half, and then you can store it like this, so it doesn't take up too much space. So that's the cart, very easy to open and collapse, and I've already been using it every single day since Christmas. It's just such a nice way to organize little messes and tuck them away so they're out of your line of sight. Like I said, I will include a link to that in the description if you are interested. That is all for this week. I am going to work on ordering some fabric for the office cabinet doors online. I remembered I had saved a whole bunch of patterns on Spoonflower, so I'm going to go check those out again and see if there's something that might work and get that ordered so we can work on that in the next few vlogs. So definitely more to come on that. I just want to make sure I find something that I love. No rush, it's not a critical thing, but it will make a big impact. So I want it to be something that works well. Thank you so much for watching this week. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates, and I will catch up with you in the next vlog.